Hello and welcome to the June moon gathering. This moon gathering is centered around the Cancer new moon, which is exact tomorrow. Today we're in the balsamic moon phase, which is approaching the new moon. We'll talk more about what that means and how you can use these phases a little bit more later. But first, I want to go into some housekeeping things and a quick check-in with me and any of the folks that are live that feel like they want to share at this point. So there's a lot happening in the world, and I keep saying that, and I imagine that that's not going to end anytime soon. So my intention for this container is to ground some of the energy of the collective and to be able to connect with you guys, anyone that is here for the live or catching the replay. Thank you so much for sharing the space with me. I hope to bring guidance and support to your experiences through this conversation, and also leave space for you to find your truth and further your process on your own afterwards. I want this space to feel as safe and inviting as possible, so feel free to come off mic or not, use the chat if you want to, turn on your camera or leave it off, have the agency to come and go as feels aligned for you. All of that's done. Intentions are set, so I'm going to breathe for a moment. Feel free to take time to set your own intentions for the space, breathe a little bit, shift around, check into the chat, come off mic, give a little bit of an idea of where you are today and how you're showing up to the space. If you feel safe doing so, again, you can do that in the chat or come off mic, or anything else that's coming up for you at this point, and then we'll kind of get into the astro. So I'm going to breathe and leave space for anybody to come on if they feel called. Okay, cool. So getting into some of what today's time is going to look like. These spaces are not super structured, as not super structured as I get as a Capricorn, everything. So, but it's kind of fluid. So I thought about just kind of starting with like a check-in of where we are. Most of the people here live and a lot of the people on the Patreon are United States based. And so I want to honor that this has been a rough week, right? So again, so many things happening all over the world, but specifically around abortion rights and around what's happening in the school systems and what's continuing to happen with the trans and non-binary communities and so on and so forth. And so just taking a moment to like recognize and ground back into some of the stuff that we've talked about previously on this channel about what's happening in the United States chart with the Pluto return. Pluto is a very long transit. And so we had the first of 3 exact hits for the Pluto return in the United States. So if you're not familiar with what this is, I'm referring to the chart for the United States that happened when the Constitution was put into place. And it's Pluto placement. So like where we have Pluto natally, the United States has one as well, right? And so Pluto has made it all the way. Later when I pull up the charts. But so anyway, we had the first hit of the Pluto United States return on February 22nd, 2022. That was the first one. The second one is coming up in July. It happens on July 11th. So we're getting closer to that Pluto, conjunction, the second one of 3. Okay. And so when the Pluto return happens, it signifies a time where, so speaking of the United States, right, a time where the nation or whatever it is goes through a deep transformation. A lot of times things crumbling, right? So again, now I'm talking on a collective level, but all of these things are also showing up for us personally, and we'll get into how to kind of do the personal level of things a little bit later, but there's a lot happening in the world. And so I just wanted to ground a little bit of that. We can feel in the collective that like Saturn, the authority, the traditions, right? That's Saturn generally, and Mars, our individual needs, our personalized experience, wanting to kind of assert itself. And then Saturn, the authority, kind of like, actually, no, that's not going to happen, right? And so Saturn in this conversation is the Supreme Court, right? Coming out with all these conversations, right? Because Mercury is also in the mix from Gemini, having these conversations in Gemini. Mercury is at home in Gemini, right? And it wants to share information, it wants to share data. It's the messenger, right? But it's not necessarily, Mercury is very fluid, it's non-binary in multiple senses, and also it's going to carry the message whether it's good or bad, right? It's just a messenger, right? And so it's going to give these, gutting messages that it's given throughout the last couple of weeks from the authority, which is the Supreme Court, right? And so all of these things kind of like playing out in the chart as well. So we will get into the chart so we can take a look at all of that stuff in real chart time. So this is the current transits that we have today, right now. So you can see the sun finally just has got into Cancer last week, right? So we had the solstice. So now we're at this. So we have Mars that's moving into the final degrees of Aries. Mars at the final degrees of Aries is frustrated, it's aggravated, it can be impulsive because it's reaching the end of its time in its home, in its domicile, right? It likes to be in Aries. And so it's almost like, we think of Aries, it's the first sign of the zodiac. Oftentimes it's known as the baby of the zodiac. And the babies are known to be selfish, right? But it's not in a way that we judge them, right? Babies know that I have needs and my needs are important. And that's what Aries brings us, right? And Mars, when it's in Aries, it has this ability at the end of Aries to scream for what its needs are, especially if those needs aren't being met, right? So depending on where you have things in your chart, right? For me, I don't have a lot of air and fire in my chart. So when there's a lot of air and fire in the cosmos, I very much with a square. So the new moon is happening Cancer, 7 degrees, and it's directly square Jupiter in Aries at 7 degrees, right? So this square can be a conflict between Jupiter and Aries that wants to go and do, and the Cancer new moon that's saying, let's be internal, let's stay at home, let's do this in the privacy of our space, right? Cancer wants to build a container for things to grow and for things to be nourished. And with the square to Jupiter, there's a potential for burnout. So a lot of people are going to go and they're going to And so we have the balsamic phase, which we're in now, the dark moon, and then we come into the new moon tomorrow, and it happens at 7 degrees of Cancer. So this is the new moon, 7 degrees. We've been talking about 7 degrees Cancer. So the main aspect that we're looking at with this moon is Jupiter down here in Aries. And we already talked about that, right? It gives this flavor to the moon of wanting to do something. Jupiter being tied to this moon pushes us into new territory. It gives us an underlying bravery or courage to step into something new. Aries is about newness, and Jupiter is about opportunities to step into our growth and to step into our evolution. But again, it's a new moon in Cancer. So this is an internal awareness. This is an internal awakening of how you have recently stepped into this new territory of your spiral of healing, right? When we talk about healing, we talk about coming to the same places, but with a new perspective, right? And hour. But I'm going to go into a little bit of like the upcoming cosmic weather for July, and then also some big background stuff to kind of pay attention to through the end of the year to give that kind of like, sometimes I feel in my experience, I can get caught in the what's happening right now and feel like I'm drowning. And so to look at the cosmic weather for longer periods and see where we are in bigger patterns can help me kind of ground what's coming up for me. So that's my hope and my intention for these conversations, and obviously anything additional that you get in it is bonus. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to kind of get into the big hits of what's coming up, an overview, and then that'll leave me space to put some cosmic updates out this coming month. So I was going to leave us just with a quick little like tarot card that I'll do what I always do with my clients, which is I'll pull a card and I'll give each of you space to kind of look at the card, process through it, see anything that comes up for you initially. And then if I get any messages that feel pressing to share, I'll share them here as well afterwards. But this way you can take this card and have your own process with it if you choose to do so. And your messages do not have to match what I talk about, right? So I always encourage you to pay attention to what comes up to you initially, in your own process. I think that's most important, to listen to our own intuition. So if you choose to do so, take a moment to breathe and prepare to be able to receive any messages that come forward to you. And if you don't want to, that's fine as well. Okay, I'll put the card on the screen and take as much time here with this card. If you can't see it, it is the 6 of Wands. I will also post this picture when I post the replay, so you can have a clearer picture to have your process. Just noticing anything that comes up to you initially, any feelings you feel when you look at the card, anything that sticks out to you. Thank you for being here. Let me know if I can help process anything. Again, my messages are open. Try to take some time to honor your growth, your evolution, your process in the bigger scheme of things, right? Recognizing that there's a lot of patterns unfolding right now and we can get stuck in it, but zoom out a little, see where we are, recognize where we've come from. I appreciate you being here. Okay, that's all I got.